Okay, so today we're going to learn about the coordinate system. Now there's lots of different components to the coordinate system, and we'll go over those as our vocabulary words here. But first let's talk about what our learning target is. Your goal today, what you're trying to learn today, is how to graph points on the coordinate plane. So please write down next to your learning target, I can graph points on the coordinate plane. You should be able to say that at the end of today's lesson. Okay, and if you go below your vocabulary words on the right-hand side, there's kind of this little graph paper cut out here, and it's got two number lines kind of crossing over each other. This is the coordinate plane, and it's kind of like a map. It's going to have locations on it, and the way we can find those locations is based on these two number lines. So let's look at the different components of this coordinate plane. The first one I'm going to talk about is the x-axis. And if you notice, there's a horizontal number line here, just like we've been using before, and that is our x-axis. Okay, it's got all integers here. There's negative numbers. It intersects with a number line right at 0, and then it has positive integers. Same locations as a regular horizontal number line. And then we have a vertical number line, which we call the y-axis, okay? And the y-axis goes up and down because vertical means up and down, right? So we have both of our different types of number lines, and they meet in the middle, they intersect, okay, to make up the coordinate plane. And you'll notice when those two number lines intersect, it breaks the coordinate plane up into 4 spots or 4 pieces, right? And these are the 4 sections of the coordinate plane. And these 4 sections are labeled and named a little bit differently than you would think. First, each one's called a quadrant, okay? And our quadrant 1 is going to start up at the top right here. So that is your quadrant 1. So please write a Q1 or quadrant 1 in that section of your coordinate plane. And then quadrant 2, you're not going down, you're actually going to the left. So quadrant 2 is going to the left, and that feels a little bit backwards, but that is how they are labeled in math on the coordinate plane. And notice that next to this Q for quadrant 2, I have the Roman numeral of 2, which is 2 lines instead of the number 2, because the quadrants of the coordinate plane are labeled using Roman numerals. So that's another important concept you need to be familiar with. Make sure that when you're writing these on your notes, you're writing it with the Roman numeral and not with a regular number, because that would be incorrect. And our next quadrant, we would go down. That is our quadrant 3. We have Q here with the Roman numeral 3. And then to the right, which is Q4. And this is our Roman numeral for 4. This V is the Roman numeral for 5. And then there's a 1 beside it to the left, and that's like 4 or 5 minus 1, sorry. 5 minus 1, which gives you 4. This is the Roman numeral for 4. If you don't understand the Roman numeral whole concept and system, that's okay. But just know that these have to be labeled with Roman numerals instead of regular numbers. And remember that they're labeled this kind of backwards direction that we call counterclockwise, because it's the opposite way of a clock. This is going the opposite way a clock would go. So that's why they call it counterclockwise. So you need to be familiar with what the different quadrants are called and where they are. Now, this intersection point where these two number lines meet right here in the middle is called the origin. Okay, and that location is shown by showing two numbers in parentheses as 0, 0, because it is 0 on the x-axis number line and it is 0 on the y-axis number line. Okay, so make sure you put a dot there to show your origin, and you can write the location of 0, 0 right by it, or write the word origin. You need to know that this is the origin of the coordinate plane. Now, just like the origin has two numbers, all locations on the coordinate plane are going to have two numbers. The first number is going to be its location on the x-axis, or the x number line. Okay, so it's going to show where it is going left to right. And then the second number is going to show its location on the y-axis, so its location going up and down. Okay, so you need both of those numbers that reference back to their coordinating number lines to find that location in the coordinate plane. So let's look at our example here. We have an example of -2, 4. Those are our two numbers. Remember, our first number is always the x value, okay? And the x is our horizontal number line. The x always comes before the y, just like in the alphabet. Another way to remember, there's a little riddle down here, is that you have to crawl before you can climb. That's to help remind you that first number is the left to right, crawling, right? Before you can climb or go up and down. So that's to help you remember that that first number is always the x value, which is on the horizontal x-axis. And the second number is the y value on the vertical y-axis. So our first step is we're going to start at 0, 0, or the origin. We're going to start right there to find this location. Our second step is we're going to use the first number. So up here it's -2, our first number, which is our x value, right? To move that spot on the x-axis. So we're going to move to that spot on the x-axis, which is our horizontal number line, right? Left to right. So we're starting at our origin. Our number is -2, which means we need to go to the left 2 spots. So here's where we're at now. So we've used our x value. We've moved where we're at on our x-axis. Our third step is that from the x-axis where we're at right now, we need to use the second number, and here we have 4, to move up or down on the y-axis. So I put this little blue line to show we're going straight up and down because we have to stay at this -2 on the x-axis. We can't move from that. So we have to go up and down along this line. And this y value is going to tell us whether we're going up or down and how many spots. Now it's positive, which means we're going to be going up, and the number is 4. So we're going to be going up 4 spots. Okay, so let's do this third step. So from the x-axis, where we're at right now at our -2, we're going to go up 4 spots. Okay, and right where that intersects right there, that is where we're going to graph the point. So the location of this point, -2, 4, is going to be right there on our coordinate plane. Now, it's a pretty simple concept, especially because you guys probably have experience reading graphs. The hardest thing that students struggle with on this is knowing that the first number is the x-axis and the second number is the y, the up and down. If you can get that down, then most likely you'll be great at this and you'll be able to do it all. Just always remember that this first number is the x, the horizontal number line, which is probably the first number line you learned too, right? And then that second number is on the y-axis, the up and down. So you have to move to both of those spots, and where that meets, right where they intersect, right where that meets, is the location of that point. And it's represented by this